Chris, good to see you again, buddy. It's been years. Welcome to Guy Talk. I appreciate you coming on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to see you again. Great to have been talking with you the last week or two.
Yeah, well, we had to do our coordination and put this thing together right so that we can ensure success of the show. And I think we got some. We have a lot of history together. Let me give you a little background on Chris before we get started here. He's a decorated, honorably discharged U.S. Army veteran. He was a Mustang, so he was both an NCO and an officer. Go figure. I can't believe you went to the dark side. With 20 years experience in defense intelligence industry, defense and intelligence industry, and in public-private sectors. He's worked with BLACKWATER Security, which is where I met Chris, Intelligence Collection Officer, CI, Analyst for DIA, Senior Intel, Analyst for A-STAN, Senior Intelligence Officer, A-STAN. Well, the list goes on. And he's also the recipient of the U.S. Army's Outstanding Civilian Service Medal. And it's a pretty high award. And I believe you got that when you were working with DIA.
I did. I was the DIA lone guy out forward in Afghanistan with field office that was made up of NCIS, Air Force OSI, Army CI, had everybody. And then there was just me from DIA as kind of the linchpin to make it go.
And how long ago was that, Chris?
How long ago?
Yeah.
That was, 2011 was when we kicked it off. Insider threat surge, found a gaping counterintelligence hole. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to build that apparatus. I came home in 2012. And then, as we are, I went back out in 2013 into 14 to rescue my baby, since we had built it and it kind of wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. The person that I was, the position I was in was really supposed to make the analytic piece gel up with the operators and the investigators.
Well, let's start. Let's start with let's start at the beginning. For you and I, it was with Blackwater in 2004, I believe. But you were already in the enlisted in the National Guard or Army Reserve.
Right, Army Guard. So when I came to Blackwater, I was in a LRS, or Long Range Surveillance Detachment, the Indiana Guard. That's gotten much bigger now. I think it's a whole airborne battalion or something now.
Wow.
But we were tucked away in Darlington, Indiana, the little Guard Armory. Do our jumps, and that kind of thing, and try to steer clear. At least our command wanted us to steer clear, keep those Maroon Berets, in order. And so there was about 7 or 8 of us that came from that unit, and kind of spread around Blackwater. Some were just guarding the villa, Paul Bremer, the ambassador's his residence. In the green zone, and then there were a couple of us that went out and about.
I had no idea that there was 7 or 8 from that same unit that was there.
Yeah, we all went out and tried out together. I think there were 2 or 3 that went out first, and then about 5 or 6 of us piled in, the next training group, the next week.
So you went through a training cycle with Blackwater to get in that.
It was
the opportunity.
Absolutely. It was a tryout. The guys that were running the range were going to be the bosses, the team leads and things like that, as you kind of learn you're going along. So it was really a hand-picked, and when you're in an element, and me being a young guy, you retired SEALs, Green Berets, for Marine Force Recon, you've got that whole piece. But it was, do I want to live and work with this guy? I think that's what it really came down to, and how I joke. I ran a mile and a half in 8 minutes and 20 seconds or something, because I was,
to be young again, huh?
And they said this isn't a competition; it's just State Department qualification. You got to get in here in 45 minutes to do a mile and a half. Do 25 push-ups and get up, that kind of thing. But as soon as we stepped off the out of Moyoc, the headquarters there, the Moose Lounge, so to speak.
Right.
And we went down and came back. As soon as we stepped off, you could see SF guy, SEAL guy, and this was my belly whack. All I did was run and do push-ups, and
Well, you could tell by their hands in their pockets. Is that what it was? Hands in
yeah,
pockets.
yeah. Well, you can always tell. You can always tell West Coast SEALs from East Coast SEALs. All those kind of things. It was such a good mix, and I was a young guy. Like I said, it was a huge opportunity for me to learn. Getting out there and being Indian amongst too many chiefs almost. It was huge. I ran that, beat everybody, and my roommate, who was a big weightlifter guy, Dorian, he had given me crap earlier in the week when we go to the gym that, like, why don't you get off the treadmill, come over here and lift weights? You got to be a hard target and all this kind of thing. He always give me crap. And when I came in, he said, well, you may not be able to lift a car, but you sure can run faster than one. And I thought to myself, that might have just been it that pushed me over, because nobody else is going to remember anything, who finished second to last, whatever.
Right.
If you're not first or last.
You always remember number one, though. Always remember number one.
And there were a couple of people I came in were just like, whoa, but that was my thing. I got a chance to kind of use my strength.
Yeah. Oh, to be young again. That's a long time ago for me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore. That's for sure.
You know what? When I went down to Moyoc, before I went down, I got a call from Marty Strong, and he said, we got something over here that we need your help on. Would you come over? So after agreeing and checking, because I was still working, and got permission to go, I went down to Moyoc, met with Bill Go and Mike Rush, and my interview was filling out an SF-86. About 30 seconds with Mike. He had to go to a really important meeting. He really didn't need to talk to me, and told me to go with Bill. He'll take you to the range. Okay. So, I wasn't sure that's what I was there for, but okay. So I went down. They issued me my gear. We were still in that steel housing unit down there. Went out and was shooting with Bill, and I guess I did okay because Bill, who is a phenomenal marksman, at the end of it, he goes, you're pretty good. And I said, and you're not bad yourself, Bill. So I guess we evaluated each other, and when I said, is that my training? Is that my validation for being able to come and work with Blackwater? I said, I thought it was more for leadership and managerial skills, but okay, we'll start with that.
And that was your, I remember this. You used to tell us when we were leaving the team house with the Mambas to, move out and draw fire.
Move out and draw fire. That's right.
So that was
what you did.
That was your moment there, in Moyoc. You're clear. That's all we needed, just to make sure you can shoot straight. That's
right. Move out and draw fire. Lock and load and move out and draw fire. So tell me about your Blackwater time there. Where did you, were you always at the Mambas, or was that where you started?
No, the Mambas came about for a good reason. We were rolling soft skin, 2 guys a car. I think we picked up Dave Jackson, high up at the airport with 2 cars and 2 guys in it. And same with him. There's your weapon, there's your kit. Get in, pull security, welcome to Baghdad.
So you're telling me that you scared the shit out of Dave Jackson, and that's why you developed it, because this can't be for every time, right?
Right. No, and it was, there were hairy moments. You remember our guys got hit out there, out on Irish and things like that. I think that was the real catalyst that really brought about the need for the armored up, what became of the Mamba team, and talk about roll hard.
My first run with you guys. Oh, you had it upside down. There you go. My first run with the Mambas, I was in a RAV4 where they were hanging armored plates.
Yeah.
On those hooks out the window, and I think it was T-Boy, Gecko, and Miyagi, and of course they put me in the passenger rear seat. So I had to shoot offhand, going down the road, and it was like, okay, well this looks real safe. This looks real
Yeah.
safe.
Well, you think I used to do that in the bongo with the bongo
Right.
truck, and I'd
Right.
be pulling out left, and that was the only soft skin with the Mambas, but we needed it for all the luggage, right?
Right.
And so I'd pop the door, if I had to do anything, and
Right.
shoot left-handed. Which I'm left-handed in basketball and baseball, but not with a firearm. I'm one of those weird
Right with
guys.
firearm. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I got there, I think, in September of '04. Might have been September, or I think September
Yep.
'04.
So
And
I had left in June. So when I was there that first time, I was there.
who were you there with? What were you doing the first time you were there?
Yeah, we stood up the consulate, or what was to be a consulate down in Al-Hilla, down in Babylon.
Okay.
Adjacent from Camp Babylon. Camp Babylon was kind of like an intel center. It's a hotel. It was like Uday and Kusei's old hotel and a casino.
Wow.
And that's what they were working out of. So we went in with 20 Americans, for Blackwater to relieve 2 Brits, I think from either DynCorp or Global, one of the two. They had like 30 Gurkhas who are some rough dudes. And we came in with about 100 Chileans to do the actual security around that.
The whole site.
What's that?
The whole site.
Oh yeah, the whole site, which wasn't big. It really wasn't big. Camp Babylon, across the river and the I guess that was Tampa, Route Tampa. They were adjacent over, and that was a lot bigger. But really, they were guarding an old Nebuchadnezzar ruin site and some different stuff like that they had kind of wrapped, the walls around to keep safe. But yeah, we were down there. I was down there for 90 days. When I first got down there, a little where were you? That's when our 4 comrades got hit in Fallujah.
Right.
And and of course everybody knows the end of that. But I think that was 2 days after I got down there. We saw it on BBC like others, but we noticed. I was like, man, that's our cars.
Right.
And yeah,
bad situation. And that was prior to me getting there. I mean, that was like, I think in April, around April, May time frame.
Yeah, it was like March 31st, I think.
March. Okay. So, and then how long were you in Al-Hilla?
About 90 days.
About 90 days?
We were up because we had all the Chileans and all that. I was picked up by Jerry Sofko, Rich Gardner, and some of those big names at the airport. And, as that young guy, I remember looking at them and, thinking that's what right looks like. Like I got to get way bigger, especially when you see Jerry. And I remember Jerry walking us to the team house and showing us simple thing. Here's where the Pop-Tarts are. You guys are welcomed in here. The Chileans aren't, in the kitchen. And it was Wild Wild West, man. We're playing cards and some drinks were had and cigars and stuff like that at night. And, I went down to Hilla. I came back. It was still like that where if you're there at the house and somebody's at the airport or whatever it needs to be, you hop in it. We were running a red Honda, I believe, at one point. And,
Wow.
And of course, when I came back, I got to watch all that change, into what you brought in there and structured what we were doing, and that grew. And we needed that. Before that, we consider ourselves Blackwater overhead.
What I saw when it came, it was a lot of talent that just wasn't focused, and I think that's what they brought me in to help with is to help focus that talent so that everybody was moving, in unison and
Absolutely.
help that survivability. But it couldn't have happened without that talent. So it's a handshake.
I mean, what a team of characters. You got Miyagi's and 86s and Grizzlies.
Well, I was there when 86 first got there. I think JD was still there. I think JD is the one who gave him the name 86. I was in the office.
When I believe it was like a stipulation that if you're going to come to us from State Department.
Well, so they're throwing you out. And he was like, well, yeah. And he goes, okay. And why do you want to be here? Well, I got nowhere else to go. And he goes, looked at me and I went, and he goes, okay, you're 86. That'll be your call sign is 86,
Okay.
and which is an indicator of the characters that were in that house during that time.
Oh, absolutely. There was great camaraderie, and I mean, it was made. You think, besides that book, they've made a comic book, and I thought only the best way to explain that group is probably by doing it through a comic book.
Well, I got to tell you, I spent a lot of years training, and all those years of training, I end up in the funnies. It really is ironic to say the least.
Right. And somehow made sense at the same time.
By the way, I just got Billy Tucci to come on in April and be on the show, and I can't wait to talk to him. He's a character himself.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he met all of the guys that were there. He met me. I think he met Miyagi
and T-Boy.
Did you ever get to meet him?
He met Troy. Never met me. I was off into, I guess by then, kind of Army and doing the commissioning thing, and because I felt like I was cart before the horse when I came to Blackwater. I needed a whole lot more experience to really be doing what I was doing.
I got to meet him in Baltimore Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I brought my grandson down there and got to introduce him. And actually, I got a couple of the roll hards and brought them home and passed them out as gift within the family. Billy's a great guy. I can't wait to see him again.
Yeah, very talented from what I've seen and heard. Yeah,
I think he's a great artist, and he's a personality. He's still jumping down at what is it? Phantom Airborne Phantom Airborne Brigade, I think they're called. And these they have like a bunch of old broken guys come in and do water jumps down at I think Kissimmee, and I think he comes down there and still does it.
Let's just do water jumps, for fun.
Yeah, well that's why I went to the scuba team. Is that it stops hard. So
that's why I was in the Army. I can walk through water. I'll walk through rivers in the snow.
Right.
But get me swimming. And, I think in OCS, we did the whole thing where you like walk off the diving board and you got to take all your equipment off or something like that. But that was, we weren't underwater for long. It was just as quick as you can back up and get out of that thing.
As soon as they could get a gaff in there, they can get you out of that water, right?
Yeah. Right.
I had on Lieutenant General Steve Blum, and he was talking about Katrina, from the guard side, the military side of the house. But you were down there with Blackwater, weren't you?
I was. I was down there for 102 days. Wow. I had, because I stayed in the guard to get the military intelligence, because with that infantry background, I would have been infantry right away. So I came home and been home for maybe a week or two. And I think I was telling you, even at a wedding that weekend, I had some family friends that were saying, why aren't you down there? And I was like, shit, I don't do that. What are you talking about? I don't do that kind of thing. And had a call. They were putting together a group to go down there. I think they all drove over. I flew into like Alexandria, I think, with people trying to get back to their houses, which was like, it just happened. It's not going to happen. But I went down there. We guarded FEMA's headquarters. I believe we had other teams that were basically just guarding the morgues, things like that, which I'm sure would have been completely boring. They were guarding the morgues with the dead bodies and, and all that kind of thing. So we guarded FEMA's headquarters. There was about 12 people on a shift, 12-hour day.
Was there any roving patrols that they were doing, or was that left to civil authority?
Civil authority, but we would have, I think we'd rotate every hour, from one post to the next. So you kind of make your way through the day, kind of break it up a little bit, so you can work the gate where there's more activity and that kind of thing. And then you'd be in, the press room, just kind of staying out of the way. But we had two people that would walk around. I remember we had bomb threats. President Bush came there and shook hands with everybody and like did the little walk around tour.
So you had locals threatening you guys with bombs?
Yeah, called them in. I could remember a buddy of mine, Clay, and I going and checking, in the back side of the building where they said it might be coming. and nothing came from it. But I think, call-ins, that kind of thing. I mean,
It's got to be concerning for sure.
Sure. I mean, nothing like what we do in, overseas, but more rare. And that was different for me too, because this is domestic. Most of the guys had law enforcement backgrounds. A lot of them didn't have Blackwater backgrounds, or came because they were waiting for the tour. I mean, that's what I did. I was supposed to go to the half-pack border and pull some static security, that kind of thing, and then got the call and thought, well, hell, I'll go do that, because my next thing being through the Guard was to go to Intel school.
Right.
So I stayed down there, and 102 days. It was, I guess you'd call it like legendary amongst, all relative to Blackwater and Katrina, where we went out to dinner at night. We called it like the contractors getaway.
Right. Yeah, I got a call about going down there as well and couldn't make that. I was tied up with my day job, and I couldn't make it down there for that. So let's get into your DIA work.
Yeah.
I have him on my notes here that you started in 2009, 2010 is when you actually started to work for the DIA
as a civilian. So I went there. So OBC, or Intel school, put it that way, that came up. I had the opportunity to go back with Blackwater with Greystone and run ops from Jordan and kind of run the hotel, and send, guys would go in and out and going into Iraq and so forth. And so I held off and did that, but had this opportunity to go on orders, Title 10 orders, to DIA, which I only newly, I was going through the Intel schools. What's DIA? What are they? And, it turns out to be very important. And they were younger. I think DIA was 56 or something that it came about, 1956. And I had the opportunity. I walked in there with another buddy of mine that I'd gone through the school with, that we were kind of recruited in there, finagled to get on orders, and walk into what's now DCTC, the Defense Counterterrorism Center. It was the JIT of CT, the Joint Intelligence Task Force Combating Terrorism, which was...
Thanks for doing that, because the acronyms, you know how we get picked on with that.
I try, I think we were... I don't know, maybe that was a newer Intel officer thing, as I came through, that you really had to spell stuff out, even especially almost if you're talking to an Intel director, so that you don't catch them looking stupid.
Right.
But yeah, it was an incredible opportunity. I was there for about a year and a half, and worked in the Counter-Terror Watch Center, or Warning Infusion Center, right? Which was doing... embassies supposed to get hit. Is it credible report? Is it not? Put some analysis on there, get it out. And then in between the two rotations I did in the watch, I deployed to Iraq which was ironic, because I'd been with Blackwater just recently, doing the tactical stuff. And we even ate on Camp Slayer, which is where then I would find that as home. Working in the MNFI, what they call the SIOC, the Combined Intelligence Ops Center, for General Keller, and a SIS civilian Brit that he had as his deputy. And we briefed General Petraeus. We did these long 45-minute, what they called commanding general roundtables, which wasn't a round table. It was a big long table with a couple generals, the general, General Petraeus, my general, and leadership of like 3 or 4 of us, and then just a big empty table with everybody piped in on the video conference, that kind of thing, and then all the head shed colonels and staff would sit around. I thought they were always there just to make me nervous.
Right, the wannabe Jedis.
Exactly.
Learned a long time ago. You don't fear the generals. You fear the colonels, lieutenant colonels. And I was like, why? And they said, because they want to be generals.
That's right. They're going to do anything to get up there, right? They all deserve it. So how do you get there?
Just ask them. So So you would give these briefings, and this was just like a normal intel brief. So what happened in the last 24 hours type thing?
No, not like a, what they call a bub or a cut. So I've had plenty of people, oh, I briefed Petraeus too. I'm like, you got up and said there's nothing significant to report this morning. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
That's not briefing. This is 45 minutes. I joked I was relying more on speech class from college, look up,
right,
that kind of thing as you went and talk. And the thing, but it's a scripted brief. Let's talk about the colonels. I would go through at the 05 level, lieutenant colonel, and they'd change everything I'd written from happy to glad or whatever. And then the next day I'd get with the 06 level. They'd change everything that the lieutenant colonels changed, with the lieutenant colonels not covering me. I'm taking the heat as though I wrote that. Right. And got used to that. And then it would go to the general. And the general, man, he was very diligent. I mean, we'd work hours, going over a brief that was painstaking, but it's meticulous to the letter, to exactly what we're saying, and you'd end up with about a 10-page brief, double spaced kind of thing. And you'd go in there and it'd take about 45 minutes, and I remember the first time I went in there, and somebody else, my senior was briefing, and they finished up their kind of talk and everything. And he just rolled over and said, they thought they were going to be out of time, so I'm getting mumbles of it's not going to happen. And so they're like, come on, I got up at like 6 a.m. to lift weights for this, to get the nerves out and all this. And so instead, now he rolls over and goes, go ahead, Chris. And was probably the easiest person I've ever briefed. There's no hip shot questions, especially an intel officer, and you go through training, you're used to getting hit with random.
It could have been easier than when you were briefing me.
Oh, well, no, actually, I think it was. He was easier. Yeah, you told me to it.
You had a lot more schooling behind you at that point than you did in the early.
Right, I was like early mentorship. Before I'd even gone.
Yeah, we spent a little bit of time with that, didn't we? We did kick that around a little bit.
We did. I was going to say the one thing I really enjoyed was at nights I'd get a Corona and I'd go into the briefing room, the conference room, and I'd spot out SIGACs, different small arms fire here, car bomb here, and all that kind of thing. And somebody'd come in and we'd shoot the shit, while I'm just do that. It was like the calmest thing I'd do in Baghdad, Yeah,
it was a good time. But now, were you briefing Petraeus?
Yeah.
Or were you briefing your general?
No, General Keller would effectively build that brief. Had the final say. He was the C2, so he was the intel chief.
So he was the guy actually talking to Petraeus.
So I would be.
You would be. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that for the audience.
Yeah. So now everything I'm doing at that point, and General Petraeus probably knows, it's really their ass, as to the credibility and all that kind of stuff of that. It was just at that point, it was up to me to deliver, to be a briefer.
But your general was the one who had the final chop on that. This is good. Yeah. Brief this.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly right. And and that's why he was probably even more meticulous. It would start, a lot of stuff would roll out of the briefing, where, hey, he's interested in this, he's interested in that, there's some RFIs for this that weren't covered in the brief. Because, the last thing you do, especially in front of a 4-star, is sit up there and try to play like something that you don't know.
Right. You're going to get caught.
Yeah, you take that as an RFI, and as an officer, I get another bullet point for providing a nice little packaged RFI, response. But you notice as you go through it, there's a lot of people that are very motivated to be doing that. Others that are not. And so when Sunday ends, it's like the cycle begins again. So when you come back on Sunday night and they're picking out, hey, we need this or that. Now, some people can't hide because they're the subject matter expert. But there was a lot of people gone on Sunday afternoons. Yeah. A lot of people at the gym on Sunday afternoon after the journal came back and everything. But no, and I was allotted that opportunity, I should say, from a buddy of mine, Brian Miller, that was our senior analyst.
Well, And I just asked you if you were like doing like a daily brief, yeah, and you said it was kind of a daily brief, but you weren't way down in the weeds with it. You were more strategic level.
Very national strategic level,
Okay.
kind of big, what's Al Qaeda doing,
Across the country.
right, facilitate. So I was on that answers your question. I was on the Sunni foreign fighter team. So largely that meant what are facilitators doing, along the Syrian border largely. Who's coming in, how are they getting in, what are we doing when they get, we track them, all that kind of stuff. And then they'd flip that into the operational side, of, do we hit him? Do we let him keep working because he's telling us everything that they're doing, so long as we have good intel on that guy.
So the chess game again.
Totally. Interesting to see. That was my first kind of, experience with such a thing and like a dilemma like that. Because it's like, let's just go schwack that guy. We just schwack everybody.
Not yet, grasshopper. Not yet.
Yes. Slow roll.
Right.
That's so I did that, and I was on orders. I left DIA because I had the opportunity to go through the counterintelligence school, special agent course out at Fort Huachuca. So I left and did all these courses and all this kind of thing, and had put in for the federal civilian job. So I came back, and the way these things go is like, I'm not doing counterterrorism. I'm not doing counterintelligence so much, but I was doing collection management for counterintel and humans. But at a national level, you got requirements, you got those things. There's not a lot of counterintel and human stuff, at that level, just changing on a whim.
Were they feeding stuff up to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're at the kind of the top of that triangle of all the service components, the COCOMs, all that kind of thing. And then what you're really doing, I was in the DIOC, which I looked it up so I could even read what that means. But it was in DIA. It's called the DIOC, the Defense Intelligence Operations Coordination Center. Okay. And it was basically, so as it says here, located in the DIOC, integrates into a single organization that functions of DIA's Defense Joint Intelligence Operations Center, the DGIOC. So there was kind of like an analytic kind of piece over there. But the real thing that was in there was U.S. Stratcom Joint Functional Command or Component Command for Intel, Surveillance, and Recon, or ISR. Wow, so that's what I would say in a quick bit was, we do ISR collection management, coordination, deconfliction of intelligence operations collection.
And when we talked the other day, you were saying that you were doing that for, it was actually one of your big jobs was deconflicting the assets.
It was, and it would get up there. There's a 2-star that's in charge of that. So there's two generals in DIA, and this one's kind of hidden, so to speak. But they also are they were the center point for the DNI and some other big, kind of senior organizations. That's where all that it would all come through there.
Now, when I was saying deconflict, what explain that? Your deconflict.
Yeah. So you get, you have all your standing requirements, all those kind of things. And then as things move around and, real world hits, say Army, wants this bird to fly and collect XYZ. Collection manager over here for combatant command wants it for something else. And so that would cut that debate or that, issue would come to us, and that would then get we would take it, analyze it, get smart on it, all that kind of stuff ourselves, and then brief the 2-star, and the 2-star would make that decision as to, who's going to get that collection asset,
who gets it,
or can they do both? Can they, all that kind of stuff,
or who has priority? What mission is more essential? It's not a coin toss. There's actually a process they go through.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so it was interesting. I learned, being an Army guy, I don't deal with satellites and Air Force, assets and U-2s and all this kind of thing. So I had to learn 7100 series that does SIGINT, MASSINT, and that's probably wrong. As I'm thinking, it's probably something,
Well, when I went in the Army in 1975,
I wasn't born.
And that's why I was hard on you in Baghdad. That's right there is why I was hard on you. I went in as an image interpreter in intelligence. Okay. So I was dealing with, back then it was hot air balloons and stuff like that. It wasn't right. The SR-71s or the satellites.
Because we had just come out of the Civil War where they had started to use the hot air.
It was about that time. It was about that. And this and right there is why this interview was over, Chris.
All right, scratch next. Can we get Rev or Miyagi or something in here? This guy.
Who knows? They might be available after they see this. They'll probably be contacting me.
It'd be awesome if you did something and got, not to get off track, but do a whole team kind of thing.
Maybe sometime in the future we'll do that.
That'd be awesome.
But now you had all this information now that you've collected. All this education, all this experience. So your next phase was to start sharing that information, and you did that by developing SOPs and how to do things. Now, now you're writing the books.
It was really when I started I had to really put the brakes on. There's a lot of training to learn all that stuff. They were redoing and kind of remissioning what the DIOC was supposed to be. Excuse me. Which is one of those things. Two generals went in there, paid a lot of money, TVs everywhere. It's not really doing what, that general PCS, something else. He went somewhere else. What are we doing with it, kind of thing?
Right.
But it was, I really got to sit back and get smart on stuff. I moved. So I did a lateral move. You could do that in 1 year once you're with the agency. And so I went back into what I should be doing, and that was counterintelligence. And in this position was analysis. So I was this kind of agent, an analyst kind of thing that you don't find a lot of. And so what that really ended up for me, you flash forward, ironic, General Petraeus, you left Iraq, was CENTCOM, back into Afghanistan, and so forth. And right as he was leaving there, he puts in request for forces 1082. And that asked for, as I was saying, that asked for, about 84 agents, I think, something like that. NCIS, Air Force OSI, et cetera, et cetera. And so everybody gets there, and I'm the lone DIA guy. So we're all kind of wondering, what are we doing? Is this for green on blue? Not really green on blue with, Afghans shooting on our largely our trainers or what have you. That was more of a security matter. There's always that piece of differentiating between security and CI. It gets kind of muddy in there, just like CI and CRIM.
It can bleed a little bit.
So you have to deconflict with each other. And, and that's always an important thing. It doesn't always happen. It takes that extra phone call, extra, meet and greet or what have you.
Right.
And so I went out there, and I had been told by some of the seniors at DIA Office of Counterintelligence, in this learning period, I was learning how, how does DIA fit into this? Because we don't bring weapons, we don't bring things to the fight. What do we do? And that idea was, we have all these analysts here, and they should be pushing, intel driving ops, quite literally. But it wasn't always successful. So when I went out, I thought, well, this is the place where I could, because I'm there, and I've got clout of, if I'm talking to a warrant officer or whatever, hey, I was a captain, now a major or whatever, now in the reserves. We've been through the same courses, you, me, same. And
talk the same language.
Exactly. So if it was, hey, we got derogatory information on the guy you're about to interview, right? And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but here's how you should be using that. You should be leveraging that against the guy, or maybe we don't want to fire or neutralize this guy off the base. we can make a source out of him, and make sourcey out of the source
Make him
operational.
work for us. Make him work
Right.
for us. Let's flip him.
Exactly. I mean, I used to say that a lot with counterintelligence. It's like there's kinetic and non-kinetic, and so JSOC is going to go and put lead on a head. I want to go out and shake the guy's hand and start getting information from him because of who he's connected. That same kind of thing with the facilitator. Do we kill him or do we, keep gleaning information from what we're being able to do?
So at this point, you were the one saying, "Not yet, Grasshopper."
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Right. This is why, right? Because in Iraq, under general, start dropping names that operators don't care about,
Right. Smash them.
But I had to have that clout to walk in there, to have a place at the table. Who are you? Oh, I get the analyst, the whatever,
Right.
And I have to stop and go, no, that's not. And really, you're flying blind without my guys. I got 17 guys. Who's great to do a shout out to. A good buddy of mine, Lieutenant Colonel Sean Ennis, that he was running, had all these analysts that were, shit hot, right? On the analytic targeting, all those things that we can't say out there, kind of thing. Even at first, when I was told you got to sell back there, I thought I could do this shit. Like I don't need 20 guys I got to coordinate with every night and all that. And then found, oh my gosh, that's a gold mine. Like that's our X factor, is that we have that. And so our agents weren't just on a base. There's 3 or 4 CI guys, and okay, this is a bad guy. He's going to get fired. I guess he has to be interviewed before he leaves. Whatever, get it over with. This was, when we talk about SOPs.
Right.
I ended up writing at the end of the first deployment, right? So I went back twice. The CI targeted surge operation SOP. Capture everything, all of our lessons learned, and all that. But the big thing in there was it was targeted. And by targeted, we meant analytically driven. So that when my guys go, they get the baseball card, that has everything about this guy, his DROG, where he's from, and all this kind of. You should be using that. You start talking to him about who lives in your home. Agent right here knows you got 3 Taliban bubbas that are in and out of that house. So how does he act? And because that's how you should be interviewing. You get guys that get caught up. You say a name or something, and they, grab the throat, and the body language changes. Like that's what we're trained to do, not to just interview some guy like a monkey can do.
Right.
But to actually, so can I make a source out of him? Does he need to be neutralized? Can he lead to other things? And then if he is kicked off a base, because this was another headache we had, was biometrics. We had the BAT system. Great in theory. You get down there, I don't want to hit on Joe, but say E4, who doesn't care, or he's tired, whatever, putting in, why was he fired? What base did he come on? So he can't get rehired at the next base.
Right.
Because now he's pissed. Right. And so it's all about the SOP was all those steps that need to be done, so we could actually get a grasp of things. And
with your experience, you were able to identify those key things that should be logged, that data should be captured and preserved and passed.
Right.
For the protection of the force.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big force protection piece, which, you say security, that force protection, CI, that's where we do crossover. But yeah, and that's what BATS was supposed to be. So it's a long story behind this, but we found a guy that had leveraged an Afghan PSD team who was guarding a Navy civilian. Note to self, don't have an Afghan PSD team. They got flipped by this guy who's a contract procurer. Our guy who gets killed is a contract auditor. So he's bad news for him. What he came in, told us. So the Navy civilian came in, did what we call ride-in, right, which a lot of times aren't all that credible. But he came in and said, I know this guy. I believe he was kicked off the base in Camp Lemonnier. I don't know why, et cetera. Well, that's where the analytics start. We start turning all that and find out why he was kicked off. why, so why is he now just walking around our bases? Like how
How do
welcome
you
to
get in?
Afghanistan, just random dudes just walking around with like, a spec ops group, on the same base,
Right.
that kind of thing. And here he's getting contracts to basically have permanent status on that base. And that was because the BATS program actually worked. We were able to like look him up and go, he was hit with, counterfeiting was a federal charge that he was in the U.S. back, at some point. But
he's here every day. How many days in a week is he here?
Right. And his nationality jumped out to me because I was a SME on Lebanese Hezbollah, and to not, stuff I can't say, but I thought, okay, well, this is something that it's pertinent, but where do we split crim, the criminal side of this, of a killing? When is that? Because I'm really here for counterintelligence. The boss isn't going to let me do this for much longer, except for to, find an American.
Right.
I was able to find connections and different stuff about that guy. So it was like, well, don't kick him off the base just yet.
Right.
Let me go give this to a different alphabet soup and see if they would have any interest in it before we just boot him off the base and never find him again.
So you start bringing it to that fusion center and see what they got. Yeah. And then maybe we can run this dog to ground and find the nest.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I think he was kicked off of Lemonade because he had been kicked out of Iraq. So the BAT system had worked there too.
And he was Lebanese, you said?
Yeah.
So he was crossing back and forth. Huh.
Business guy. He had been in the States earlier than, probably when he was like in his 20s or something like that. Business guy. And
so that's what he was on for. He was on there to as a local support guy doing contracts, maybe taking that to trash or a cooking, contract or supplying water. That was a big thing over there, right?
Yeah. And that's how that's how you can infiltrate, right? And that's because there's so much, there's so many people coming on the base getting hired by this element. These guys are getting hired by this element. Who's screening who?
Right.
Who's talking to the other ones that, hey, that guy came in 3 weeks ago with this contract and we fired him because, what he said in an interview or something like that is basically just, a lot of situations.
And now he's back. Oh, crazy. So when did you get out of DIA?
2016 or 17. Sorry, 17.
Having that date, Chris, having that date is really important for your retirement. I would suggest you get that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes. That's right. I should have those down. I remember when I got in, and then they bumped my head a bunch of times. I don't even know when I got it. I got something in the mail one day that said, "Yeah, you're out," and I thought,
yes, mess.
Well, that happened.
Just give me my retirement. I'm done anyway, right?
Yeah. And that goes into at that point, and I just as a lot of us did, we deployed. It was that optimal. Right. You come home, you get ready, you go back. You come home, you get ready, you go back. And I had to pull the plug on that. Little kids that were getting to a different age, where it's like they're going to know I'm gone. It's not just sad for me. It's going to have an effect on them, and that was hard to do. That was really hard to do.
Yeah, by then it's in your system.
Oh yeah, and every time I came back to DC in between those deployments, I'd come back and be like, oh shit, it hasn't changed. It's like I've forgotten about all of my, all the things that are, causing me strife and ultimate boredom back here because I didn't get into, as much like I brief Petraeus, and my friends will give me shit because I'll drop a name, when I was briefing Petraeus, right?
Like you and Dave.
Me and Dave. Yeah, well, I was bringing him coffee probably as a lieutenant.
Right, you were bringing it on a tray.
Right. Here you go, sir. Let me get the hell out of here. But yeah, so that was hard. At that point, I had the PTSD. If you do I always say, you do the job right, that's par for the course. It's going to happen. You're going to have incidents, things like that, but you keep going. And when you slow down, it just for me, it all just kind of hit me. You know, it was just like, wow, all that. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm kind of stuck with being here. Like, where's my next niche? You know, that I can thrive in, because that was it's like I was a kind of a product of my own, just being an operator type and wanting to be out and about, all that kind of thing. When I was back doing meetings, again, I briefed the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, I'm like, all I did was get nervous all morning and drink a bunch of coffee. And then I briefed him and everything went well. Right. But for me, I'd rather be in a car where there's car bombs, and hustling through Kabul or Kandahar or something like that.
Down to Florida. We got them down here all over the place.
That's right. Florida's dangerous enough.
Well, Chris, I'm glad I got to see you again. I hope to maybe we'll explore that idea of having a Mamba reunion. Maybe we'll run that through the Coconut Telegraph and see if we can.
That's right.
Do something. I think T-Boy's back in town.
Yeah.
Rex is up in Tampa. He's not far from here.
Okay.
And let's see, Leroy, I think he's in Virginia still. So,
I think so. I've got comms with all of them. So,
well, maybe we'll make that happen. Maybe I can talk my guys in here to maybe throw something together if we can get a group together.
To be like a
around tell lies
happy hour on the team house, with cigars.
Well, I always said that when you can't do it anymore, you get together, talk about it, and embellish.
Right, because we're the only ones that give a shit.
Right. So you have a cigar, a Corona, and we're back on the rooftop.
Yeah.
And laughing our ass off. Maybe we'll look into that.
Here in America.
In America, of course.
as opposed to those Badlands.
That sand is too much.
Right?
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, Chris. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to see you again. I wish you well. I hope you keep doing well. And Alvey Risk, keep at it, man.
Alvey Risk, that's our PI firm here in Indiana. And I was going to say, too, I went to Warriors Heart to get help for PTS. And that's, if there's anybody watching this, warriors out there, Warriors Heart, you can go through the VA. The VA doesn't even know it half the time. But they've expanded. So they were in Texas. Now they're in Virginia and somewhere else.
Well, now that you said that, the organization that is behind this is Warriors Hate USA. And and they're building something down here similar. I mean, I'm in a building right now that the studio was built so that they can start training people to do this. There's another building being built to teach people how to do woodwork, culinary schools, and they're bringing in local businesses to do this. And what a great concept. Great people.
I built a cross in the welded it and all this, for the wood shop, metal shop.
Right.
I didn't know anything about metal shops and stuff, but it was therapeutic. All that put together, I came out as a different person.
Well, we also got a boxing ring out there, or a cage. So if anything starts getting out of line, I'm too old for it now, but maybe some of you young guys, since you weren't born in 75,
I'll leave the boxing to my brother.
Good idea. Good idea.
He was the Golden Glove guy. I played soccer, baseball, and basketball.
Right.
That's
civilized sports.
That's right. Sports. That's right. Hey, why are you hitting me? You can't touch me.
That's right. You don't have to do that. Well, thanks again, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we get some of the guys here from some of the guys on it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, buddy. Take care.
See ya.